Hey explorers, I'm Jay.
And I'm Eric, standing in for Patrick.
And here we are in Tucson, Arizona,
at the historic Presidio District.
So we hope you enjoy this adventure, and come along!
Come on.
This area was once called Snob Hill because of all the wealthy people who had lived in the area. So we're starting off in the Steinfeld Mansion. This is a California Revival architecture that was built in 1898.
It was a gentleman's club built by Albert Steinfeld, and one of the first structures in Tucson to have running water.
And here we have the Cheney House, built in 1905 by Annie Cheney, the widow of George Washington Cheney, a mining chemist and one of the early postmasters of Tucson. As you're noticing, the downtown Presidio District is surrounded by these old historic mansions. This one happens to be the J. Knox Corbett Mansion. And so iconic of Tucson and the Sonoran Desert, you've got these really awesome saguaro cactuses. So the Presidio was built in the 1600s, and it was built to help protect the Spaniards and the Mexicans and then their allies of the Tohono O'odham Native American tribes from raiding Apache tribes. So here we are at Presidio Park. It's not really much of a park as much as it is a designated historic site. So here we are at the Tucson Old Walled City. There's not much of a walled city, but there is some nice benches around here and some cool monuments. But again, it's not a park. No swings, no slides. Hey, we're on Broadway and Congress. And why is it Congress? We've got the Arizona Congress building right behind us.
That's right, governmental offices governing this beautiful state.
It's fun to stay at the YMCA.
It's fun to stay at the
YMCA. Okay, now we're at the Presidio San Agustin del Tucson Museum. This was established in 1775. Yep, that's 1 year older than the United States of America.
Wow.
Let's go inside.
Oldie but a goodie. The name Tucson originates from an O'odham word, Tucson, which means at the base of the Black Hill. As Tucson developed from a fort to a town during the Arizona territorial period to a modern city, the Presidio Walls were torn down. Today, only fragments of the original structure remain hidden beneath the ground. And there's one right there.
There we go, part of the original wall. So most of the wall was destroyed in the 1860s, but this remnant of the wall is still here and it's preserved. The interesting thing about the Presidio is so much of the original Presidio foundations are still underneath the city of Tucson, and you can see right across the street there's this big parking garage. Well, underneath that was probably a few acres of Presidio land. Hey Eric.
Yeah.
I think we're on a mission.
Are we though?
I love these olive trees. So not only did the missionaries plant olive trees for the olives, the fruit, the oils, but olives are also a symbol of peace.
So this fig tree is fairly old, and there are guesses out there saying that it was brought here actually by the Spaniards in the 1880s. And I guess when this area was excavated, they actually found remnants of the figs, which were able to date it back.
We're ready for battle. Check out that cannon.
There's four 4-pound bronze cannons that stood in the two towers and guarded the fort. The Presidio cannon was used once in a battle during an Apache attack in 1782.
So the local Native Americans to the Phoenix and Tucson areas are the Tohono O'odham and the Acamel O'odham, which are also known as the Pima and the Papago Indians. And when we're talking about Apaches, one famous Apache that we might know is Geronimo. That's right, Geronimo was one of the enemies of the Native Americans that lived here. What we have here is a modern reconstruction of the Presidio San Agustin, the last remnant of the adobe walled fort of the Spanish and Mexican eras of the Presidio San Agustin were torn down in 1918, and since that time archaeologists have uncovered portions of the fort and historians have located documents describing its appearance, and so they were using those documents to replicate what it may have looked like at that time. Oh, I heard it through the grapevine.
How much more I want you be mine.
Honey, honey, yeah.
Baby, how much longer would you be mine, baby? Hey, hey, hey.
Here's a really cool mural in the Presidio courtyard.
Grindr.
Did you guys know that Eric was on Grindr?
I'm on Grindr.
So many of the Native American villages have an outdoor oven, also known as an horno. And this is where they would make their different types of breads, bake their dishes. And it was usually outside of the house because if there was a fire, you didn't want the home to burn down, so you had an outdoor oven. Check this out. This is Casa del Soldado. This is a soldier's house. And this is a replication of what it may have looked like. So here's the lovely kitchen area. Well, actually it's a dining area because they did a lot of the cooking outdoors. But you had the food preparation areas.
Fun fact, the woman over there in the corner is making hot chocolate. She's making hot chocolate.
She's making chocolate.
Yeah.
Some real good style Mexican chocolate.
And she's using a special pitcher for hot chocolate, and it's actually called a chocolatero. So these are the soldiers' barracks here, and in 1797 it was estimated that there were approximately 47 soldiers total with wives and children. Around 24 soldiers that actually had wives, and 29 single soldiers. So the bachelors would have been housed in here, waiting for their hot chocolate.
And this right here is a millstone. So the Spaniards used to use this to grind both wheat and corn. So you got your corn tortillas and your flour tortillas. So what is this?
It's called a pit house. This was the shelter for a family of maybe 2,000 years ago. This had a hearth, and so we know that they at least kept warm in here.
Was there a covering above this?
There would have been. Now, if you look over on that little picture on the side of the building there, you'll kind of see the structure. You put the mesquite beams or poles in. You fill it in with brush and whatever you have. You might have covered it with mud. You might have, mud, kind of being the same thing as adobe. And you would have kind of filled it in and left yourself an opening. It's called a pit house because they're built, this one is about 18 inches below the ground. And the reason that you do that is to give yourself sort of a structure, to get rid of all the roots and the bugs and different things that would have been living in the ground.
Oh, interesting.
And to kind of just, make yourself a cool surface, because most of the time it's really hot here.
So it keeps you cool in the summer and warm in the winter.
Insulation in the winter. And, at the time this was built, the people did not live here full time. They would stay in this area by the river, and plant their crops, take care of their crops, harvest their crops. But during, after the harvest, they would move out to the desert where there was water and, sort of a food supply. It was not a very good food supply. It was cactus, cholla buds, nopal, which is prickly pear, maybe the occasional bunny rabbit. And the Tucson Basin's actually been inhabited for at least 11,000 years. Wow. And so most of the time, that river is the reason the Tucson Basin is populated, because you've got water and you've got a way to plant crops.
Water's life.
Water's life. In the desert, it absolutely is.
Yeah. The main building of the museum back here was the home of the Siqueiros and Wacome family. Juan Wacome Siqueiros had used wood crates actually to build the roof here, because wood is so scarce in the desert. He had to be as resourceful as possible just to build his home. Okay, and behind me here is a jujube tree. I didn't know jujube was an actual fruit. It's a date-like fruit. I always thought it was just a drag queen's name. So this is a real cool spot. It's the old Tucson Artisans Gallery. There's shops and restaurants and live music. So let's check it out. The Dusty Monk Pub. Because when you think of monks, you think of pubs. I need that. Thanks a lot, explorers, for joining us on this Tucson adventure of Old Town Presidio Historic District. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And remember to like, comment, and follow us on YouTube. Remember, we don't just travel, we explore.
See you next time.
That bottled water is very questionable.
I think it's human urine.